Hello, my loves. So, if you know me at all, you know I might just go where the wind blows. So, I'm not currently at home. I also didn't bring my earbuds. So, SARS. We're going to be fine. But tonight, we have Miss Holly Conway. She is also a certified yoga teacher. In addition, she's an LPC and a something about coaching. She'll tell you all about it. But tonight, I want us to talk about how yoga and therapy can work together. So, in my world and in Holly's world, they're not two separate entities, right? As we come into knowing ourselves, doing so physically, emotionally, and spiritually is super important. So, give me a moment to figure out this software, and we're going to bring Holly live on the screen. Hi,
Hello! How fun.
So, what are those other initials behind your name?
So I am an LPC. You got that one good. A licensed professional counselor, and also an ICF BCC, which is the International Coaching Federation Board Certified Coach.
So before we get into yoga and therapy, what is the difference between a therapist and a coach?
Really good question. So I personally really was passionate about getting my licensure and certification in both because they work so well together. Some people like to think of therapy as kind of the healing work. You do a lot of kind of backwards glancing when you're doing therapy work, trying to understand patterns from your childhood, your family of origin, your first relationships of life, who you were in your friend group, all those wonderful little T traumas a lot of us suffered through in middle school and high school. So really just reflecting back on, man, how did I become the person that I am today? That's really good therapy work to be doing that. So most of the time when people begin their self-discovery work, they like to start with therapy and really understanding their roots and who they are and why they are the way they are. And then some people, that's what they like to do for a very long time. But most people kind of get to a point within their therapy work where they're starting to feel really good, understand themselves, feel whole, healthy, and happy. And so they start to look forward more often in their life instead of looking so often into the rear view and trying to understand their history and past. They like to look forward more like through the windshield of their life. They like to think about, where am I going? How am I going to get there? How do I know if I'm doing well? Am I off course? And all of those forward looking questions and thoughts and conversations like really tend to fall in the coaching realm. So coaching is really forward focused, goal oriented, accountability oriented, whereas therapy is much more about healing from traumas and understanding of self.
So my initial thought in the yoga world is it's like yoga nidra or yin yoga is really about healing the past. It's very therapeutic. Whereas maybe your ashtanga or vinyasa flow is very forward facing, right? It's about where am I going today? What am I
Mm-hmm.
capable of tomorrow? So I see those as two sides of the same hand.
I love that. I sometimes use the analogy that they're both equally important and needed. If you're a sports person, like you have offense and you have defense, and neither one is more important than the other. They just serve different functions at different times within a game. So definitely both therapy, both coaching, yoga and yoga nidra and ashtanga is all great. We like to mix it all together to get to our best selves.
I love it. Sorry if you guys see me squatting things. To get away from the noise of the road, I'm standing in a mosquito haven. Yay! It's gonna be great. And also it's dark, so children are
It
having
is
a
getting
beautiful.
dark.
Yeah. Okay, so Holly, my first question for you is, what do you think a yogi is?
Mm. I think a yogi is a person who tries to live yoga. For a lot of people, they first enter their yoga practice, especially in the West, in America. I live in Houston, a big city. So most people kind of find yoga through the physical practice of yoga, and that's a great entry point for most people. But I think when you become a true yogi is when you're walking through your world off the mat and contemplating the things you learn about yourself on the mat. So you're like, man, every time I go to yoga, I push myself too hard and compete with everyone around me. I bet yoga is not the only place I do that, and start to notice those patterns. I think that's kind of the moment you're like, oh, I think I'm a real yogi now. I'm making these parallels between what's happening on my mat and happening in my life outside the mat.
I love that. So I not to judge, but because I know you, I feel like that might be some of your work.
How did you know? We always use ourselves as the examples.
Right? Because you feel with that. So mine is always when I'm practicing, I get very about myself. And
Mm.
I don't even notice other people in the room. I'm like, I'm on my mat. I do me. And sometimes I do that in my life, and I forget that the other people around me want to be a part of my experience. So,
Ooh.
anyways, just a shout out there that, sometimes we share our own history. Okay.
Hmm.
So, what is one way that you think people can better merge yoga and or therapy and coaching, either of those two?
Mm. I do. I love that question because, for me in my journey, it all kind of was happening at the same time. I was getting my master's in therapy as to become a therapist as I was getting my yoga teacher certification and getting my coach certification. So pretty obviously, now that I reflect back, I'm like, I was looking for something, trying to like kind of piece it all together because it really does feel all so similar and interconnected. And I think in my journey, when I first started to kind of feel it clicking together, was really in my yoga teacher training. They did a lot of talking about the body as a metaphor and really paying attention during your practice to like specifically where in your body things were happening and how they were happening. Is it my back right shoulder or is it my front left shoulder? It's a pretty big difference. I can tell you quite a big difference about like your past, your history, your present, where you're holding emotions, just having all these questions start to come up when you're really paying attention to the specifics of what your body is trying to tell you in a physical practice. The kind of easiest example I always think of, if you see someone who is, walking around like this, hunched over, not only is their heart closed off, they obviously all have a lot of weight on their back. So like, man, that person has a lot in their history that's made them close their heart off. And as they work to open up their physical body, open their heart, open their chest, shake off some of that stuff from their past, they're able to be a little bit more open to the world. That's a perfect example of therapy and yoga just coming together and really interplaying off of each other.
So I love that. I think what was lacking in my yoga training was any acknowledgement that therapy is vital. Um,
Mm,
I feel like in a society where we're evolving, right? Where Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where I know where I'm sleeping, I know I'm fed, as we're working our way up that hierarchy, as we're coming into self-actualization, I think it's safer to do that with a trained professional. So
mm,
I am wary of yoga practices that tell you, oh, you don't need therapy. I
mm-hmm.
am your therapy. I am your guru, right? Like, so I appreciate your experience of being both simultaneously, because to me it's dangerous for a yoga teacher who has no training to come
Right.
at you and say, "Let me help you through this trauma. I learned that pigeon pose is where it's at."
I was about to say if you did, I mean, you see it all the time. People get emotional in pigeon, like they'll lay there and things will start. And it really, especially the longer I practice as a therapist, I'm starting my sixth year pretty soon. And I'm like, trauma is very real and it needs to be covered, to be handled with just such care and concern and compassion, privacy, confidentiality, really, really, really intricate work. It can't be done, like with an untrained professional on the floor of a yoga studio. It can start to unlock, but then they really need to go into to someone who knows how to hold that space, and even a therapist who has a community around them to help them hold that space. So because it's really really intricate work. You can't just kind of go in there with a sledgehammer. It's very slow, very nuanced. Actually, I don't know if you've read it yet, but I think we've talked before about the new book that just came out. It's Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry, who lives in Houston, and it's called What Happened to You.
Yeah.
And it's a great book about trauma. And I learned something reading that book. They talked about, when processing past traumas, it is not beneficial to sit there and just like ram, hit it over and over for like an hour a week, every week. They're really, he says, really only about like 2 or 3 minutes. And then like we need to talk about something else. 2 or 3 minutes, talk about something else. We need to kind of move between like deep processing and then laughing. And so it's even to know like how nuanced that is. I just can't imagine anyone being able to know that or be able to really hold it in a non-trained space.
I love it. So we have 1 minute left, Holly. How can
Cool.
they find you? Can they work with you virtually if they're not in Houston? What can we learn about you?
For sure, for sure. So I work currently at a practice called Modern Therapy, and so you can check out our website, mymoderntherapy.com. We're on Instagram at Modern Therapy. Facebook is Modern Therapy. We do virtual. I have clients all over, coaching clients all over the country. We also can do in office if you're in Houston. We also have a nonprofit organization that is a sister of what we do called Human HQ. If you're interested in finding community of people who like these kind of conversations.
Yay! Well, Holly, thank you so much for your time. And everybody, it was so great to see you. And we'll catch you all next week.
Bye.